This is really pushing it. Oh, but these tires are doing fantastic. We're gonna have some rock action right up here. Oh man. Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor. And my buddy Luke just recently picked up this 2014 Toyota Tundra. And he's new to the truck world, but he's always liked them, he's always thought they're cool, and this one popped up and he decided to snatch it. However, as you'll see here on these aftermarket wheels, looks like they are fuel wheels, we've got some very wore down Toyo open country all-terrain, actually they're open country extreme all-terrain tires. They are on their last legs, so I told him, hey man, one of the first things you got to do, especially if you plan on using this to do some off-roading, is to get yourself some new tires. And he said, all right, Charlie, well, you're the car guy. What should we get? And we've done Hancooks before with the Dynapro AT2 Extremes on my dad's Tacoma, and those worked really well. But I was looking around, and I actually found that the Kumho Road Venture AT52s are right up there, just as well ranked according to Tire Rack as some of the leading on-road all-terrain tires, and in a lot of instances you can find them for a good bit less money. So I said, hey man, how about we give these a try? And he said, again, you're the expert, let's make it happen. So today we're going to go for a little bit of a drive in his 2014 Tundra. We're going to talk about kind of some of the appeals of picking up one of these 5.7 Tundras as opposed to one of the new ones. We're going to have him put the new tires on there, we're going to take a look at them, and then take this for a little bit of off-roading. If you do want to see a little bit more on the Tundra, check the link below. We've driven some of the last model years of this generation, and then of course we've covered the new one. And this is also a little bit of an interesting experiment for me because I am tentatively in the market for one of these in the next probably 2 to 5 years. Right now I've got my F350, and if you've watched the channel for a long time, you kind of know how we stumbled into that truck. And it's fine for now, but eventually what I would like to get into is something like a 2017 to 2020 Tundra TRD off-road with the 6.5 foot bed, or an SR5 with the 8 foot bed and extended cab. So I'm curious to spend a little time in this truck, one that has a good amount of miles on it. This one actually over 180,000 miles, but still functioning pretty darn well. I say that, however, this truck was not necessarily maintained the best. We see from the tires, we see from some of the accessories on here, and you'll hear from a little bit of the clunking as we drive out of here, that it was well used, it was well loved. We suspect the previous owner did a lot of towing with it, and so my buddy and I are still kind of figuring out what this truck needs and sort of weighing the pros and cons of if it's worth kind of making the repairs necessary in order for it to be a good, comfortable, and reliable daily driver, or if he should dump it and go to something else. Interestingly, the previous owner put the Toyota TRD rear sway bar on the truck, but the bushings of the rear sway bar have deteriorated over time and fallen out, so the rear sway bar is essentially clanking against the frame now. But you can't buy the bushings directly from Toyota. You'd have to buy a whole new rear sway bar kit. So we found some bushings that should work from an aftermarket supplier, and we're going to try to get those in, but that is one thing this truck needs. And then we also have a light bar on the front of here that's making a little bit of squeaking noise, and he's had it to the shop a few times to try to diagnose that, and the shop was kind of like, well, it's an aftermarket light bar, it's going to make noise, we're not going to diagnose it. So this is a well-loved Tundra, but the question there lies, is a well-loved Tundra still better than, I don't know, getting yourself something like an F-150 or a Silverado or a Titan or something like that? But before answering that question, we need to get some new rubber on this truck. So let's go check out the Road Venture AT52s. Here we go, a set of 5 Kumho Road Venture AT52s. These are LT 285 60 R20s, and now that I'm looking at that, did we get the right size? Now, these are aftermarket wheels, so you just want to make sure we got sent the right size tire. 285 60 R20. 285 65 R20. All right, we are good to go. These got a nice tread pattern to them. I'm really curious. It's a little bit of a hard compound, so I'm curious what these are going to be like in terms of road noise and efficiency and off-road prowess. Definitely curious on this one. Now, something to note about Kumho, I liken them a lot to the Hyundai or Kia of the tire world. Yes, they're not the Michelin and Continental, that's kind of like your Toyota and Honda, but they are definitely not like your cheap Walmart brands or kind of off-brand tires anymore. No, they are true competitors in the tire space. They've earned the right to be on your vehicle just as much as any of those other ones, and they can often do so without a little bit of that prestige factor that some of those big tire manufacturers have. So yeah, you might have an argument to go with the Michelins or Continentals or Dunlops or Pirellis for sports cars or something like that, but you would be doing yourself a disservice to not take a look at what Kumho's offerings are, because they've built themselves up. They've got to get there, and they can't rely on that name recognition quite as much. So I'm really curious to see what these are going to be like on the truck. So let's get these on. Here we are. We've got the Road Venture AT52s installed, and I gotta say, they do look pretty darn proper on the truck. Maybe not quite as aggressive of a look as some people might be going for, but I think a little bit of that is just due to a little bit narrower profile on these fuel wheels compared to what you might get on more of like an 18-inch wheel, and have a thicker tire, a little bit more of a presence. But I do think they look good on the truck, and I'm excited to try the tread pattern out both on the street and off-road. Done a little bit of highway driving getting up here, and I gotta say, so far I'm impressed by the minimal road noise. So we're gonna go out and do a little bit of driving, talk about the tires, and talk about what it would be like to own this 2014 Tundra here in 2024, because so far I have a few thoughts on that as well. This is a well-loved truck. We talked about that already in the video, and there are some pros and cons to going with more of a well-loved Toyota Tundra. So without any further ado, let's get going. Of course, key to start it up. It's funny, I spent a long weekend driving the F350 around before this, so in a lot of ways this feels sprightly compared to that truck. The throttle is very jumpy on this generation Tundra. I don't know exactly if there's a way to kind of smooth that out, or if that's something to do with the tuning on this one or what, but you'll find yourself leaving stoplights and having it jump away from you quite aggressively. Also, I think either the suspension is quite tired on this 183,000 mile Tundra, or we're dealing with some sort of aftermarket shock package that is a bit firmer than factory, because it is firm. It is a firm ride in here, feeling a lot of the bumps. But you gotta love the sound of that 5.7. And this truck is no slouch. When you have it unladen, it gets up to speed. This is such a great motor. But here at 65, slowing down to about 60 miles per hour, listen to these tires. You really barely hear them, and that's pretty impressive. And they are a little bit more of an on-road, all-terrain tire, but still, that tread pattern, I was worried when I first felt them being kind of a hard compound that they'd be pretty noisy on the road, but so far don't seem to be bad. Now we're on concrete highway. Once we get the motor to settle down at 70. Not bad. Luke wasn't able to join me for this filming today, but he told me that he really has no complaints about the tires. They've been working great for him. And tires are an interesting part of owning a vehicle, because they're very, very important. They are the only contact points that you have for your entire vehicle onto the earth. So if you have bad tires, doesn't matter how good your acceleration is, your brakes, your suspension, the interior, anything, it's not going to matter, because it's not going to be making good contact with the road. But on the flip side, people will also overreact with that and think, oh, okay, well, I need to have absolutely the top tier tire. I need to be spending the most possible. And turns out they're just driving on average everyday street situations like this, and the main things that are important to you are pretty much just road grip and wear. Those are going to be the most important aspects. So yeah, we're going to go and take this and try it out in the dirt, try it out in some off-road situations, because that's going to be important to a smaller section of people. But for a lot of people, it's just a matter of, do they look good? Is the price right? And are they going to keep my vehicle and my family safe? And so far, all of those are being checked here with the Road Ventures. Now, about the Tundra in general, not loving the elbow placement here. After 180,000 miles, this center console, which you can feel on the right, started out decently soft, is particularly hard and worn down on the left side, on the driver's side here. So when I'm driving with one arm on the right, my elbow resting on the center console, it's resting on a pretty hard piece of plastic there. Not really loving that. But other than that, for a truck that was probably driven hard and put away wet, this thing mechanically seems pretty good. Still pulls strong, sounds nice. We're able to be getting up this hill in 6th gear at 70 miles per hour. I am noticing quite a few rattles from the cabin, however. We've got kind of a squeak situation, squeakish rattle going on with my seat. Good bit of rattles kind of just in this general area. And admittedly, the plastics are kind of showing their true colors, showing them true selves here after 10 years. This air vent here is slightly broken. One of the slats seems to be moving freely. But I do still really like the center console layout with the shifter right here and then the HVAC control. These nice big knobs, those are satisfying to turn. And so many good places to put things in this truck. You got this side bit there, got a little bit there, you can see fits cards nicely, you got storage up front. I will say a lot of it is lined with hard plastic, so I know when my dad owned a Tundra of this generation, he put a lot of squishy bits in and around the cabin in order to fill and make those bits quieter for things rattling around in there. Put a cell phone down and keep it from sliding. I will say with this tint on the truck, it is a bit difficult to see the gauge cluster, and you can essentially make out your speed, but I'm a bit disappointed in this 2020 or 2014 model that you can't get a digital speed readout. That would be nice, be able to just peek down there and see what your speed is. Here we are exploring some off-road trail that my good buddy Miles over at Miles Per Hour put me onto. Have not been out here before, so we're being a little bit careful, but upon initial impressions of the dirt, I'm pretty impressed with the traction levels. We are not aired down or anything, and this is going to be the most intense hill I've climbed so far. We are in 4-wheel drive high. Probably stand to be in 4 low for this, but just going for it and crawling right up with ease. Might even be able to be getting away with doing this in 2-wheel drive. I mean, it took a while before I even switched into 4. I do apologize for some of the squeaks and creaks in here. I am curious, if any of you own higher mileage Tundras of this generation, do you get incessant rattles in your glove box? It sounds like there's some plastic on plastic in there, and it's really making itself known here in this off-road section. I'm actually going to switch it back over into 2-wheel drive. We'll play around a little bit there and see what our traction levels are like. Coming down this hill. Yeah, really good stopping distance right there. Let's see if we can get our traction control off. Toyotas don't love having their traction control off for some reason. There we go. There's some spinach. Now, to me, a lot of times the dirt abilities of a highway all-terrain sort of tire are a little bit less important of their outright crawling grip, and more so if you're driving dirt roads regularly, whether for commute or for work or for pleasure. If you're in an emergency sort of situation, can you stop? Can you turn? can you accelerate when you need to with confidence? That, to me, is more important than necessarily being able to climb the steepest hill. This looks like an interesting climb here. I wonder if we can do this. It's pretty steep. A little off balance. Let's just kind of see what we got here. Two-wheel drive now. Okay. Now let's shift to 4. This is really pushing it. Oh, but these tires are doing fantastic. We're gonna have some rock action right up here. Oh man. That's oh, whew. Some sweaty fingers after doing that. That was tough. No slip at all. I'm impressed. Now the question is what do we get at the top? Is it going to be even worse coming back down? Should probably be in 4 low for this. I think we're okay. Impressive. All right. Luke, I think your tires can handle much more than you'll need them to. Here's a steep bit right here as well. Let's come to a stop. With ease. With ease. Ooh, all right. This might be the final boss right up here. The other option would be to back all the way out. So let's see what we got. I don't think we're gonna have much trouble, but ooh, this is pretty steep. Let's see. Cool. All right, well, I am pretty satisfied in saying that these tires should be able to handle just about anything you throw at them off-road, and been pretty comfortable so far on-road. So I'm gonna get headed back to the Orange County and wrap up some final thoughts with you on the Tundra and these Road Venture AT52s. Wrapping up the day in the Tundra with the Kumho Road Ventures. I'm happy with them. I mean, I really cannot see a reason not to go with these. I mean, the price is competitive, the testing results are there. They're quiet here relatively on a concrete section of highway. I mean, obviously, without going directly back to back to back with some of its competitors, I'm not going to know for sure what's a little bit quieter, a little bit louder. Hey, someone bought it on its X. That's great. But at the end of the day, what it shows is that Kumho is a serious player in the tire game now, and they are not to be overlooked. As for the Tundra itself, I do respect the fact that we've got 183,000 miles on here, and from a driving perspective, not the creaks, the rattles, and that sort of deal. Driving, this thing drives like a new truck. The steering is still light, the power is there. This feels like the last tester Tundra I had of this generation. What, 22 or something like that I was probably in. So I respect and appreciate that aspect of the Toyota Tundra. That being said, there's something about this generation of Tundra that I've just never ever felt that comfortable in it. And my father had one for a number of years. His was really cool. His was the TRD Pro with the optional supercharger on it, so that truck was awesome. But there's just something about the layout, the plastics, the feel, the driving position, the greenhouse, everything. It makes sense in the brain, but I've never really loved it in the heart. And there's something about F-150s which would be probably the truck, the only other truck I would consider outside of this one. There's something about the F-150 that in general feels cozier to me. I just like being in it better. And something about the layout, the seating, I don't know what it is. It's just Americans are good at making big, comfortable, couch-like vehicles, and when it comes to my pickup truck, that's kind of what I want. Now, I also want reliability and performance, and the Tundra has that. I mean, it's pretty difficult to beat this 5.7 when it comes to one of the best motors you could get in a truck around this generation. But I think if I could find a 5-liter in an F-150, probably like a mid-20 teens, that's probably where I would be going for my next vehicle. The only other thing I've kind of considered, and I know this is very different than an F-150 or a Tundra, but an Infiniti QX80, you can pick those up so cheap for what you're getting. Such a capable, luxurious vehicle for 25 grand or so. Very lightly used, much newer, 2019 or so. So that's another consideration for sort of an off-road or family sort of vehicle. But I don't know. The Tundra, for some reason, I have never really bonded with it. And Luke, I'm sorry, I'm not insulting your truck in particular. This is just my thoughts on the Tundra. All right, before we wrap up, let's get one more look at these road ventures. I do say this Tundra is aging nicely, style-wise. I mean, it still looks good, even I think this was the pre-facelift, right? Pre-facelifted model. Still looks good. Yeah, those tires do look proper. Okay, this tread seems a little bit softer now. It's been broken in a little bit. It's got some nice siping. I'd like to try it in the winter. Maybe we'll try to get some winter shooting on it. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the Tundra in general, check the link below. We've got a lot of videos covering this gen and the new one. And check the link below if you want to buy yourself some Kumho, some road ventures, or really any of the other tires that make some good stuff for other purposes. Shout out to Luke for his Tundra, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.